Sound, Mind, and Body is brought to you in part by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound. You'll find over 180,000 titles to choose from and to listen to through your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound.
Hello, and welcome to Sound, Mind, and Body, a podcast where we talk about how to stay healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. I'm your host, Sheila Melody, and I am super excited for our guest today. He is the co-founder and evangelist of MindBody. MindBody is a leading technology platform for wellness businesses. It's the top technology platform in the world for wellness businesses and happens to be the platform that I use for my strength training studio, and that's how I know about MindBody. And I've been to several of their bold conferences, which are super inspiring. And so when I reached out to the co-founder and asked him to be on my podcast, I was so honored that he said yes. So welcome, Blake Beltram.
Thank you, Sheila. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to be here talking to you today.
I am so excited that you are here. We tried to do this one other time when you were remote, and the connection was just so bad. So I really thank you for coming to our studio, because now we can get a great recording and we can be face to face.
Absolutely. This is so much better anyway, right?
Yeah.
I knew that it was not happening for some good reason. And
right.
So much better to be here on a beautiful day in La Crescenta and be sitting across the table from you.
And I'd like to tell the listeners, okay, so Blake, when we were about to start, he had a request. He said, can we please have 1 minute of mindfulness before we start? And I was like, absolutely. So he set his timer on his phone for 1 minute, and we just sat. Now, can you explain why or what you do with that 1 minute of mindfulness? It was wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, it's something I've started doing in business meetings at MindBody. So a lot of times if you're in a business meeting with me that I'm facilitating or running, I'll ask everyone to start with 1 minute or 2 minutes of mindfulness. And the reason is it ties me back to my personal meditation practice. It's an opportunity to get below thought, as they say. We spend so much time in our heads, so much time thinking and planning, and we can run ourselves ragged with our thoughts. And for me, it's beneficial to just take a minute and just do nothing and just drop below those thoughts and start to access some of the energy and information that we have access to outside of the mind. There's so much information contained within the energy of the body and information contained within the energy of the universe that comes from some mysterious place we don't really understand, but we have access to. So for me, it's a moment to just drop below thought. It's a moment to get centered, get back in touch with my body. And also I think something magical happens where a heart connection is made with the other people in the room. It just kind of drops you down to the level of just being human beings for a moment instead of human doings.
Oh, I love that. Be a human being. I think I'm going to start doing this before each of my podcast recordings. I love it.
It's really, I haven't met anyone yet that dislikes it. And what I'll say if I'm in a large group, I'll say, if you have a mindfulness practice, you know what to do.
Yes.
If you don't, here's an opportunity to just do nothing for a minute. You probably haven't had an opportunity to do nothing for a while, so take a minute and do that. And if nothing else, if you just can't stop your mind, then go ahead and close your eyes and take a few breaths and plan out the rest of your day if you absolutely can't stop thinking. But everyone likes to take that minute. And as I like to say when I finish usually, there's 1,440 opportunities a day to take that 1 minute.
Wow.
That's how many minutes are in a day, 1440. In fact, there's a place in Santa Cruz called 1440 Multiversity that just started last year. I met the founder of that. And it's this phenomenal place, and that's where the name came from. So you have almost 1,500 opportunities a day to just take that minute.
Oh my gosh.
We talk about how I'm too busy to meditate. You're not too busy to meditate. You can actually take that minute at a stoplight if you're here in Los Angeles.
That's true.
Or as Wayne Dyer used to say, go ahead and close your eyes. Don't worry, the person behind you will let you know when the light turns green.
That's so true. Well, this is, a great way to, show how you got the title Evangelist. I love that. Now, first of all, I consider you guys, and I read an interview with you and the other co-founder, Rick Stolmeyer, that you're conscious leaders. And I so admire that. I love the whole culture at MindBody and what you've created. So let's talk about the start. How did you get into this? How did you even, you were the one who developed this software in the very beginning, right?
Yes, it's a long and fascinating story. I'll try to keep it brief. Coming soon to a bookstore and theater near you, possibly.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating story. It really is. I was a theater, film, and television major at UCLA, and I was pursuing acting and writing in Hollywood. I was at a fairly prestigious acting academy called the Howard Fine Studio on Melrose in Hollywood. And for my day job, I had a little business. I called myself the computer tutor, and I went around and did trainings, and I set up little networks for people, and I installed sound cards. I, in those days, showed people how to send and receive email, all of these kind of basic things.
Right.
Meanwhile, Rick was at the Naval, had gone to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. He was on a nuclear submarine, so we had were living these completely divergent lives. And I was sort of the, I was sort of the, the hyper creative type that was in Hollywood pursuing this career. And I had been at UCLA with people like Ben Stiller and Jack Black and Shane Black, and Tim Robbins had just graduated. And I had always thought, I'm next.
Yeah.
And, well, I wasn't next, as it turns out. Brad Pitt was getting all of my roles, and somebody else was selling the screenplays that I was supposed to be selling. It wasn't working out. And frankly, I was really kind of miserable in my life at that point. And so in the midst of this, I started saying, I've always been a spiritual seeker and really consumed lots of material that have to do with my own spiritual and personal evolution. And I was at a point in my life where things just were not working for me. And so I adopted the mantra, show me the way and I will follow. Show me the way and I will follow. And I repeated this daily for, I'm not sure how long, weeks or months. It went by for a while. And I kind of made this bargain with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that, I've been using my mind and my ego to try to get me somewhere. It's not working. I surrender, show me the way, and I will follow. Well, a guy in acting class in my acting academy named Michael Stadvek approached me one day, and he was running Mari Windsor's Pilates studio in West Hollywood.
Oh, yeah? He
said, we're opening a second location in Santa Monica. We need software. We're running this studio out of a shoebox. We're putting the money in a lockbox that doesn't lock. Can you find software for us, help us buy computers, install it, train our staff on how to use it, get us set up? I said, sure. That's kind of what I did as the computer tutor. So I searched and searched in vain. No software existed to do what they needed at the Pilates studio. It turns out I was helping to run a spinning studio at the time with my future ex-wife. RPM Fitness, which still exists and is just not too far down the road here in Studio City.
Oh, wow.
And so we needed software there. And a yoga studio, Yoga Time, moved in next door in Studio City. They needed the same software. A spinning studio in Pasadena had tried to get me to make software a couple of years before that. I saw this opportunity and had this crazy notion that maybe I could make this software. And I wasn't burdened with knowledge or experience.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be very simple. I literally thought, 6 to 8 months, I think I would probably be done with this software, and then I'll just stamp out CDs and sell software. I thought I was getting in the sales business, not in the technology business. It's really productive to be naive sometimes.
Yes, yes.
And so I contacted some programmers. They wouldn't even return my calls. And so I went to a bookstore called Bookstar in Studio City.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was an old theater. This all ties back.
It was so cool.
It was really cool. It's still there.
Is it?
It is, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's there. It was the last time I drove by.
Okay.
But this all ties back to acting and theater for me.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Even the book that I bought was in a converted movie theater that was converted into a bookstore called Bookstar. So I went to the back and I found a book called the Microsoft Access 97 Bible. Mind you, I was not a programmer. I didn't know anything about programming. I was self-taught with computers to even have a computer consulting business to begin with. So I found this book, I opened it up, and I think the price tag was $64 or something like that. And I thought, ooh, I'm not that committed to this idea. I don't know if I'm ready to plop down $64, and I didn't even know if my credit card would clear.
Yeah.
So I decided to just pore over the book in the back of the bookstore and see if I thought I could do it. About 45 minutes later, luckily it was a good book, and I thought, I think I could do this. So I put down the $64, the credit card cleared, I took the book home. There was a CD-ROM in the back that had a sample veterinary clinic software, and I copied that over onto my computer, and I started changing field names and started making software. That was July of 1998.
Wow.
So that's how I got pulled into this thing. It was really unlikely, but I followed that still small voice.
Yes.
As I really see it now, it didn't really come from me. It came through me. I was following that still small voice. And when I said, show me the way and I will follow, this came up. And it was really clear to me that something was giving me a message that this is the way. This is what you're supposed to do.
So it's like, get out of your own way.
Absolutely. Get out of your own way, get out of your own head, get out of your own preconceived notions of what success looks like, of what you're supposed to do. And it was difficult. I had an internal wrestling match. I remember my mind kind of jumping up, and you can almost picture it like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. And I remember my mind popping up and thinking, oh, this is a terrible idea. You don't know anything about business. You don't know really very much about technology, and you're going to start a technology business. Right. And that part of my brain said, you need to go back and brush up that screenplay. You need to go get new headshots and go try to get an agent. This is a distraction, Blake. You're fooling yourself because you're afraid to really go into your career. So you're distracting yourself with this. And I heard that other kind of still small voice say, shut up.
Just go. Just do it.
Sit down. Just start making the software and don't ask where it's going. That literally was the inspiration that I heard. Do not ask where it's going, because it made no logical sense that it would ever go anywhere.
Right.
And, and
it's a great lesson in just, like you said, letting go of the preconceived notions that you might have of what you want to be doing, what your expectation is, and trying to let things come to you, see what comes to you, and just try. You just go, step forward.
In my experience, all of the good things that I've ever experienced in my life come from that. Whether it's in a moment-to-moment interaction or a day-to-day interaction or something bigger, like starting a software company, it all comes from that place. It all comes from the void, and that takes us kind of back to why I like to take that minute at the beginning to kind of get out of my own head.
Always, and never ends, right? It never ends. It doesn't matter that you've been doing this, and now you're very successful. You're still, evolving.
Oh, if only it felt that way from the inside. I'm continuously evolving is one of our core values, and I embrace that wholeheartedly.
I love that.
Just as early as this last weekend, I had this just major thing coming up with me with some real tension and anxiety that I was experiencing. I went to the Wisdom 2.0 conference in San Francisco, which I could spend a whole podcast just talking about that. But it's about the intersection of technology and mindfulness.
Oh, wow. That sounds great.
And are we creating a world that we ourselves want to live in? Through the course of that conference, I found a new level of self-awareness and sort of worked through this really crazy anxiety I was having. So, you mentioned that Rick and I were interviewed by this conscious media.
Called Conscious Company, right? The interview I read?
Yes. And it talks about us being conscious leaders. I always bristle just a little bit at that.
You do?
At that time. Well, who really can claim the title of conscious? I'm conscious. I'm more conscious than you are. You know how I know?
Yeah.
I recycle and I meditate. That makes me more conscious than you. I don't know what that really means. That's like it's great, and that's what they do. That's the brand of that, and I love that message is out there. I'm a huge believer in it, and I think you also have to take these things with a grain of salt.
Well, I appreciate your humbleness. I look at MindBody as a conscious company because of, being at your Bold conferences. I've gone to 2 of them, and just being so inspired and loving all the people there, loving the energy that you're creating, loving that culture that you're creating. So let's talk a little bit about your core values. I mean, I love your core values. It's like, it makes me think about my own company and how I want to improve it. And that's what I believe is true, leadership. Let's just call it, great leadership, because it's true leadership. You're leading the way. You're showing by example, what you want to create. And you want to create the wellness revolution, which I'm also very inspired by.
Absolutely. Yes, and I would reframe that a little bit to say we're not creating it, but we're facilitating it. And we're fanning the flames, and I do think we're leading it, but we're leading it because we've been fortunate enough to work with people like yourselves. We have almost 60,000 wellness businesses around the world who employ getting close to 400,000 practitioners.
Wow.
The people that are providing the services, the yoga teachers and the massage therapists and the acupuncturists and the stylists who are therapists in their own right when people sit down at the chair at their salon.
They are. That's for sure.
So we're so fortunate to have created this infrastructure that houses this just phenomenal collection of beings that are doing such phenomenal work in the world. And what I've realized just recently, just at Bold last year, when you saw me get up there and hold a mirror up to the audience and say, you are the leaders of this wellness revolution. I take the responsibility for being a leader in that revolution as well, as a representative of the clients that we serve.
Right.
So as part of servant leadership, I see that I have a calling here to stand up and really frame what this wellness revolution is, hold a mirror up to the leaders of it like yourself, and both congratulate you and hug you and challenge you to do better.
Right.
Because the world really needs you right now. If we're going to heal this world and everything that we see going on with it on a daily basis, we have to heal the individual.
Yeah, it's true. You are an evangelist. I feel like I'm going to, like a church, when I'm there and everybody's all, yes, we're the wellness revolution.
Yes. Yes, I have a little portable pulpit that I carry around with me, and I just unfold that, take a couple of steps onto it, and I'm off and running. It's true. It's funny. I left the company for 10 years.
Right. I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole story behind that as well. That's really interesting. If you wanted to double click on that a little bit, we can. But during those 10 years, I developed this fantasy job of being an evangelist. And during those years, I never dreamed I'd be back at my own company. But I saw the title evangelist at other technology companies. I think Steve Jobs had that title for a while at Apple, and it's more well known in the technology world. And I thought, wow, now there's a title that I want. I want to be an evangelist. And what a privilege and an honor it is to be back at my own company and be the evangelist, to get to preach the word of MindBody.
So what are some of your core values?
We have 7 core values.
7, okay.
Rick and a small group of people that were at the company in the period when I was gone developed the core values. And so they're the guiding principles at our company. We hire based on them. We assess ourselves based on them. And sometimes we let people go based on the core values. Oh. They are not wallpaper at MindBody like they are at some companies.
Yes, I agree.
and we've been so blessed to attract these people. We attract these people and keep them because of the core values. And I guarantee you, if you have a great interaction with somebody who works for MindBody, and you ask them, what is it that attracted you to MindBody, and why do you stay there? I guarantee you, within the first minute, the core values will be one of the things that come out of their mouths. So, our core values are things like humble and helpful.
I love it.
Caring and happy. Committed to wellness, mind, body, and spirit. Committed to 5C leadership, which encompasses being a catalyst and being compassionate and having character and so on. Environmentally conscious. Purpose-driven. It's really about having a purpose and showing up to work every day and taking specific actions toward that purpose. And continuously evolving. We like to finish with that because we know that each one of us is welcome to wake up every day and attempt to be just a little bit better than we were the day
continuously evolving.
Before. Yes, and we don't expect ourselves to be perfect, but we expect ourselves to be better than the next company.
Right.
And we expect a lot of ourselves. And when and if we inevitably fall short, we also understand that we're human and we're continuously evolving.
Well, you set the bar high, so you try to achieve that, right? We're going to take a break for commercial, and then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you started and how you grew to where you are now. On the next episode of Sound Mind and Body, I talked to Dr. Cheryl Selman, a naturopathic doctor who has a lot of information to tell us about EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, how they're negatively affecting us, and what to do about it.
We're driving the body to these chronic illnesses and exacerbating all the other factors that make us vulnerable. So cardiovascular disease, cancers, it's a factor in autism. It's affecting children with their learning disabilities. It's affecting their concentration, their ability to focus. This is not a normal exposure of a energetic field that is harmonious with our bodies.
That's next week on Sound Mind and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners, and official members of Sheila's woo-woo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Look, I'll be honest, I hate reading, always have. I'm a very slow reader, and I don't have the time to just sit down and read a book. So, like you, I've always loved consuming my content through listening. I've been an Audible customer for several years, and as a result, on average, consume about 20 to 25 books a year. In other podcasts the Inbound Podcasting Network produces, we've interviewed authors like Dr. Martin Gabala, who penned The 1 Minute Workout, and Dr. Sylvia Tara, who wrote The Secret Life of Fat. Both are very informative for those who are looking to get in shape and to stay in shape, and both are available with Audible. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking to Blake Beltram. He is the co-founder and evangelist of MindBody, which is a leading technology platform for wellness businesses. So, Blake, before we took the break, we were talking about how, you know, the culture you've developed at MindBody, which I'm such a huge fan of. And how did you go from the startup and then now to where you are? You're publicly traded. You have offices on 3 continents. You have like over 60,000 practices that use your... How did you go to this huge company and international and maintain that mindful culture?
That's a great question, and it's something that we continue to ask ourselves and answer on a daily basis. But I'll give you kind of a thumbnail view of that journey. It's been a long and winding road, and as I like to say, failure is an integral part of success. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been a straight line. It's not like getting in a ship and taking a straight line somewhere. It's more like getting in a sailboat and tacking from side to side. But, you know, I started off with the one client in 1998 that had 2 locations. I quickly adapted the software for yoga studios and for spinning studios and for general fitness studios. Started shopping it around and was fortunate enough to sell it to almost everyone I showed it to because there were no other solutions on the market. So Yoga House in Pasadena jumped on, and RPM Fitness in Studio City. I was married to the person running the business, so there was a little bit of, that was an inside job. Revolution over in Santa Monica, and so on. And so I started building up this little clientele of these businesses and was running myself ragged. Last night I walked by a place in Glendale, this little apartment complex where I lived in 2000 and 2001 called the Chateau Louise, which is where I learned that chateau is French for small, cheap, and smelly. But I was in this little place with no. My design inspiration was 18th century monastic. You know, it was my little monastery. I didn't have any furniture. I wouldn't put anything on the walls. Rick would come to visit me and really get grumpy. You know, Blake, can you just buy a couple of lawn chairs or something I have somewhere to sit when I come over? And, no, if you come to my place, you're going to have to lie on the floor. So
wow.
I was in this part of my life where I was consuming lots of books on spirituality and my own personal growth and evolution, and working 14, 15, 16 hours a day on the software, running myself ragged for all these early businesses because they all had a laundry list of things that they needed the software to do. And I kept thinking, well, once I get all these things done, I'll be done. I didn't know about what I now call the law of exponential desire. When it comes to technology, it's a load, LOED, which means that if you have 10 things on your software development list, every time you cross one off, you're going to have 3 more requests. So when you get those 10 things crossed off of your development list, you're going to have 30 left to do, and so on and so on. It goes on.
It's just never ending.
And yeah, it goes on into infinity. But I was driven thinking I was going to get this done at a certain point. So I built up a small group of about 12, 15 clients, started looking for a business partner, approached one of my oldest and best friends, Rick Stolmeyer, who had been to the Naval Academy on a nuclear submarine, was working at Vandenberg Air Force Base at the time, living in San Luis Obispo. And we met in Santa Barbara, and I showed him the software that I had created and what I was looking for in a business partner. I secretly wanted him for my business partner, but I didn't have the gall to ask because he had a mortgage and a wife and 3 kids and benefits, and I had 17 clients and a dream.
Yeah.
But he went home and told his wife what I was looking for, and his wife said, well, it sounds like he's looking for you. One thing led to another. We, co-founded the LLC in late 2000, 01 was our official launch day.
Wow.
And Rick is really a force of nature. When he came on, we were great partners because he's sort of this business visionary genius, and I was kind of the creative software, guy who was really in touch with the customers and what they wanted and needed. We were really a great combination at the beginning. So we grew to about 600 clients within the next couple of years.
Wow.
That were all using the on-premise solution. And I invented what I called the web scheduler, which was this web-based schedule that showed who was teaching classes and when. You could click on it. You could buy a class. You could put your credit card in and buy a class. That was revolutionary at that time. And it talked to your on-premise software, to your desktop software. So one day in a meeting in 2001 or 2002, Rick said, why don't we just move all the functionality over to the web scheduler? And the web scheduler becomes the software. Well, I thought he was crazy because it wasn't really possible at that time. But in 2005, it would become possible. So Rick and the company, after I left, grinded away, and they managed to get about 4,000 or 5,000 more clients in the on-premise solution. And then in 2005, the technology had caught up with where Rick's vision was. And Chet Brandenburg, a guy I had hired out of Cal Poly to create the web scheduler, morphed everything I had created and they had it added onto in the desktop software over to the web scheduler, and it effectively became MindBody Online. That was our software as a service solution as of 2005.
Which I love this software.
That caught fire, as you know, and it was really from 2005 on that things just really grew exponentially. Because at the beginning, our dream was to have about 25 or 30,000 clients because we thought we'd be selling software in a box on the shelf at CompUSA.
Right.
We didn't know that it would even be possible to deliver software over the internet and update it in real time and so on.
Wow.
And so that was really when the growth took off exponentially. When I came back 5 years ago in 2013. When I came back in 2013, we shortly thereafter hit about 25,000 clients around the world. And within a few years, where we are now is at about we're somewhere between 55 and 60,000 clients around the world in over 100 countries. They employ over 370,000 practitioners, and about 40 million consumers have interacted on our platform.
Oh, yeah, because you have the app.
That's right. Well, some of those interact without even knowing they're interacting with us. Some interact through the browser, and increasingly more interact through the MindBody app. Because a few years ago, we decided we can also be a consumer brand. Because now we've got tens of thousands of these businesses on our platform. we can be the Yelp of wellness effectively, or the Uber of wellness. And we can connect the consumers to all of these wellness businesses, these salons and spas, these fitness businesses, these integrative health businesses. And we can show them when the classes are, all the information about the teacher. We can help them book and pay, manage their entire wellness lifestyle through this app. So we effectively morphed into being a consumer brand as well as a business-to-business
and that
brand.
Inspired your journey across country. There's a YouTube video. It's called the MindBody documentary, where
MindBody Connect US.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, where you drove from New York all the way to, back to San Luis Obispo, California, and in every state you found a practitioner using the MindBody
That's
app.
right.
And you tried it, or you tried different things in every state, and it was such a great video. I mean, it was a very inspirational.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to do that?
I did that trip in 6 days. That was a life-changing trip for me. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm younger and healthier now than I was when I made that movie about 4 years ago.
Yes.
I was really inspired by that trip. I had been back at the company after a 10-year absence for about a year or so. And yes, I started in New York City, where we had our advertisements on the billboards in Times Square. We did yoga
in Times Square.
On summer solstice, which is a phenomenal thing to experience. And I basically used the United States as a big game board. And I got out our app, the MindBody app, which at the time we called MindBody Connect. Early on, we called it MindBody Connect, before we realized everyone was calling it the MindBody app. And why don't we just call it what everyone else is?
Yeah.
But I got Connect out, and I said, okay, I'm going to see if on my drive across country back home, if I can find and take a service in every single state along the way. And I took a camera and I interviewed our customers along the way.
It was so heartfelt. It was so wonderful. You're meeting all these great people. These are the people that you're serving.
Oh my gosh. I fell in love with our clients. I mean, our clients are truly the most remarkable people that I know. These are people that get up every day and they follow their passion, they follow their heart. They're literally driven by a need to make the world a better place. And they're not looking for a big fanfare or a lot of attention. They're looking to change the life of that one kid, or that one person who's got a health challenge, or that one person who just went through a divorce, or whatever it is. And they change these people's lives. They heal people on a fundamental level. They're so giving, and they're so loving, and they're so dynamic. I truly just love MindBody clients. I see them as the leaders in this wellness revolution that I've watched gain momentum over the last 20 years. And I see them as the paradigm shifters. I see them as the hope for a lot of the crap that we see that goes on a day-to-day basis out there.
It is so true. And by watching it, I highly recommend people just go look it up, watch it. It's just about, people, real people.
Yeah.
And you see the transformation, and it's also kind of, entertaining, because you do all kinds of things, like you do trapeze, you did the spray tan, you do pole dancing.
Pole fitness.
Pole fitness.
Not to be confused with pole dancing.
So if you want to see Blake do pole fitness,
yes,
watch the documentary. It was quite good.
It's what made it is pretty good, but I have to say my best moves were left on the cutting room floor.
Well, okay, so let's get to know you a little bit more as a person.
Okay.
So what do you do to stay of sound mind and body in your own life?
I'm super committed to wellness. I've known a little bit as kind of the wellness Nazi at MindBody, I think, because I, about 18 years ago, made a major change in my life, and I stopped eating gluten and dairy and meat and processed sugar. So I pay very close attention to what I put in my body. Mm-hmm. I also take time just about every day, or at least several times a week, to exercise. And I'll do everything from a little routine in my living room that I call Kiyome, which is kickboxing, yoga, and meditation.
Oh, love it.
I do lots of yoga classes. I've really gotten into hot yoga recently. I do lots of hot yoga and hot Pilates. And yes, I do hot Pilates.
Hot Pilates? Yes, I haven't heard of that yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to try.
I love it. I love it. And I run. This morning I did a run, and I try to take time every day for mindfulness. I don't always get the 15 or 20 minutes or more that I would like, but I at least try to take a few minutes for my mindfulness practice and drop in. And I developed this thing called the wellness theorem that I riffed on the Pythagorean theorem, which is a mathematical equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's how you find the hypotenuse of a right triangle. Way too heady, I know.
Okay.
But I adopted that into the wellness theorem, which the a squared is what you feed your mind on the inside and out, plus what you feed your body on the inside and out equals your general level of health and happiness. And what I mean by that is what you feed your mind on the inside is what kind of self-talk do you have. The most powerful voice in your life is the one inside your head that's telling you you're not good enough or that's blaming somebody for the problems that you're having. That person that's irritating you right now really, really badly that you can't hardly sleep at night thinking about them, they're not your enemy, they're your teacher. And so, just to make that little shift in how you're controlling what thoughts you're having.
Yes, because it's an energetic thing in your body. I'm becoming so much more aware of that myself. I have a meditation practice as well, but I'm just really getting deeper in with it and being more aware of the energy that these feelings are giving my body. And when I get this bad, I'm like, okay, get rid of it, go take a breath, just sit for 3 minutes and try to release that negative kind of energy.
It's really the most important thing there is. And we ignore it so often. People come into these fitness businesses and they think that they want to lose 10 pounds, or they think that they want to get in a little better shape or have their butt look a little nicer. And they probably do, and that's probably a good thing for everyone. What they really want is a little bit more happiness and peace in their life.
That's so true.
And that comes from inside the mind. They're telling themselves that once their arms look a certain way or once their butt looks a certain way, they're going to be happier.
Right.
The bad news is they're not.
Yeah.
Because that happiness only comes from, the thoughts that we tell ourselves and how much we pay attention to that little voice in our heads and how much we redirect it from the negative into the positive. So that's huge. And the other part of that for me is what you feed your mind on the outside. What do you expose yourself to? Technology companies, especially social media companies, are hijacking our evolutionary impulses.
They really are.
To get more of our time and attention.
Yep.
And we're not as in control as we probably think that we are. So how much of our time and attention are going into these places and taking away from other parts in our life where we're developing real relationships, where we're spending time with our kids and our community and so on. So that's the first part of the wellness equation. Then there's what you feed the body on the inside and out. That's more straightforward. Nutrition, what you put in, and then the domain of a lot of our clients, the fitness clients, what you do to your body on the outside.
Right.
But it's really all of those things and not any one of those. If you don't pay attention to all of those, I don't think
something might be suffering. Yeah.
I don't think you're really going to move yourself along toward more health and happiness unless you're paying attention to all of those things on some level.
That is so true, and I totally agree. So let's ask you our sound, mind, and body questions. What's a favorite sound?
Well, I love being in the mountains. I love the sound of a mountain stream. My daughter sometimes calls me Dada.
Aww.
And the sound of my daughter calling me Dada.
Oh, I love that.
I would have to say is probably my favorite sound of all.
I love it. Okay, so favorite memory?
On Father's Day in 2015, my daughter and I were in New York in Times Square. We were doing yoga on solstice in Times Square. I'm on a mat next to my daughter. My company had just gone public. And it's Father's Day, and the MindBody billboards are flashing all over the huge billboards in Times Square.
Wow.
Lying in Shavasana in Times Square after a great yoga class, feeling all of the honking and the noise of New York City sort of blending into this kind of beautiful noise, and being there with my daughter and seeing the billboards flash and looking up at the sky was really a phenomenal moment.
That sounds phenomenal.
Moment. Yeah.
Wow. How do you top that? That's going to be tough to top, but that sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it was really a phenomenal moment.
Okay, so what's a favorite place?
Well, The mountains, I think. I love I'm a small town boy. I was born in a little town called Prineville, Oregon that was so small if you plug in the toaster, the train would stop. So I was born and raised out in the woods, and I love being out in the woods.
It's so good for your soul, I think.
Oh, yeah. Talk about it, just a natural meditation. I didn't know it, but I grew up meditating, watching the tip of my fishing pole by the lake.
How cool.
Walking through the woods before sunrise, all of these things. I learned to meditate before I had any idea what meditation was.
So you're going back to that now.
Now I'm going back and finding that stream and finding that lake in my mind and figuring out how to bring it into the meeting room or into the boardroom or into every interaction that I have.
I love that. So you can find that place at any moment, you know? Okay, so the final question. What's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
We're going to have to start a new podcast, I think, if we get into all of the woo-woo
You're
things
very
that
woo-woo,
I've done.
I guess.
Well, I like a little bit of woo-woo. I guess, I've been doing breath work. With a guy named Krishna White, who works on our tech support team, believe it or not. This phenomenal guy who had these visions as a kid and lived in an ashram in India. And he now works on our tech support team, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I sometimes think, God must have put Krishna on the MindBody tech support team just for me because I get to have access to this amazing being. And he does breathwork classes at MindBody, which I started taking. And then I started working with him one-on-one. And it's kind of, you can almost think of it as it's some sort of an energy therapy. Breath work is a way to access the negative energies that we carry in our body from trauma that we may have suffered in childhood and so on, which I did not exactly have, the most Mayberry childhood. Even though I lived in a town that was like Mayberry, my childhood had a lot of dysfunction and a lot of pain in it. We can carry those energies in our body, and they can take over our mind, and they can impact every part of our lives. With breath work and working with Krishna, his business is called Enter the Heart. It can really help strip away those layers of trauma. It can help repattern literally, I feel like it repatterns my physiology and my DNA. Definitely repatterns my neural network. They talk about neuroplasticity. It's never too late to have a great childhood. And the kind of work that I've been doing with Krishna has led me to that. I literally, a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, realized I actually had a great childhood.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
No, it literally took me all these years.
From doing all that releasing and unpeeling the layers.
Yes, because I focused on the negative for all of those years. And the negative happened. The negative's real. The trauma's real. There were also a lot of amazing things. I had so many people that loved me and took care of me and took me fishing and camping and to Yosemite. And I had all of these amazing things and a lot of people that really loved me and cared for me and did amazing things. And I had sort of ignored all of that and just repeatedly told myself the story of the trauma.
Yes.
So doing breath work and these kinds of modalities can actually help you repattern that neural network.
I just did a breathwork session a few weeks ago, and we just did a podcast recording that will be released in a few weeks with a breathwork practitioner, Krista Rauschenberg, here in LA. And I have to say, it was a really profound experience. I want to go back. I want to do it more. I think it's fantastic work because it totally gets you out of your head. You're not you have to get out of your thoughts. You can't, do that by thinking it away.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So it's
what's her name? Krista Rauschenberg?
Krista Rauschenberg.
So it sounds like she does a similar work that I've been doing for the last couple of years.
That sounds fantastic.
I highly recommend it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a balance of things, and everyone has their own modalities and things that they're attracted to. But somehow at a certain point, I think we need to get to that somatic level, as they call it, that level of where energy is carried in the body and in our physiology, because that gets up and can grab a hold of your mind and your ego, and it can activate you in certain moments and really just hijack hijack your physiology.
It can, and just becoming aware of it alone is going to start that transformation.
Awareness is the first step.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nothing really changes without awareness first. And the moment that you become aware of it, you've actually shifted it just by becoming aware.
Yes.
And that should be inspiring for people to just literally know. And I get activated. I got activated a couple of days ago by something that, sent me into my fight, flight, freeze brain, into my amygdala.
But
and
then
it's interesting to just note, I'm activated right now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, you don't get lost in it.
Well, maybe you still do. Maybe you still do.
For a short while.
For a while.
Shorter while than before.
I think it's a process, but at least you notice. I mean, just the very awareness of, I'm operating from my amygdala right now. I notice that my chest is tightening. I notice that I'm sweating a little bit. I notice that I'm having thoughts that have to do with either attacking or running away, And so,
I love it.
So maybe I want to not get so attached to those thoughts right now. Maybe I want to just kind of let this ride through my body and take some specific actions to get out of this. Maybe I don't want to send that email until tomorrow.
Exactly.
And then tomorrow comes and I realize I actually don't need to
I don't want to send that email.
I
Yes.
just need to express myself in a way that's productive and positive.
Oh my gosh. Blake, this has been absolutely enlightening and entertaining and informational and all those things. And I'm going to get to see you later today because we're going to a MindBody Bold event here in LA, which I'm very excited about. So maybe you can come back sometime. Maybe when I come to the MindBody conference in San Diego later this year.
Anytime.
Maybe we'll do an update.
Anytime. As you can tell, as the evangelist, I love to talk about these things.
Well, it's so inspiring. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and I'll see you at Bold Tour LA this afternoon.
Okay. Thanks, Blake. Wow, that was inspiring. Well, that's it for this episode. So are you a conscious leader in your business? Are you a business leader, or are you just conscious in what you're doing for work? Let us know. Send us a voice memo or an email to podcast@soundmindbodypodcast.com. So check us out on social media and, join the conversation. Thank you to our guest, Blake Beltram. And thank you so much to our producer, Tim Edwards of the Inbound Podcasting Network. Leave us a review. If you haven't already, it really helps new listeners find us. Thanks for listening. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.